Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So I'm going to quickly go over the ground rules here. About a week ago, I asked you guys to list some of the biggest anime and VTuber related controversies from the year 2022. I grabbed those, tossed them into a tier list, and now we are going to rank them accordingly. And in case you're wondering, how did these things get ranked? Well, basically, the more entertaining it was, and the more people who were talking about it, the higher it's going to rank. And feel free to disagree with whatever I rank these as. Let me know in the comment section, but let's jump right into it. The first controversy on here is the Rebecca controversy. So when the Cyberpunk Edgerunners anime came out, the clear-cut favorite was Rebecca. Everyone was talking about Rebecca, who, by all definitions, fits the term lolly perfectly. She's got the petite body type, she's short, and she has cute aesthetics in her design. And in case you don't trust me, even the directors of the anime, CD Projekt Red and Studio Trigger, both refer to her as a lolly. However, Twitter did not agree because they were absolutely dumbfounded over people calling a lolly a lolly. It really just went to show you how basically nobody on Twitter knows what a lolly is, and yet somehow they still felt comfortable canceling and attacking people over this term for years. But some of the controversies that came out of this whole situation were insane. I think this was the most blowback I've ever gotten on anything I've ever covered on this channel. I made a lot of videos about Rebecca, and people tried to act like me calling a lolly or reporting that the directors refer to her as one was some crazy thing. It really just exposed a lot of people for their hypocrisy and just showed how little they know about anime in general, because they don't even know what a lolly is, and yet they grandstand about it all the time. And really, it was just crazy. For weeks, Rebecca and lolly were trending on Twitter almost every single day. It was pretty exhausting, but overall, I think this was something that I really personally attached to, so maybe it's getting a little bit of bias here, but to me, this was an S-tier controversy. It had a lot of traction, a lot of people talking about this discourse, and yeah, for me, S-tier. But next up, we have a very interesting set of drama that happened earlier this year. It involves the VTuber Toastify, I never even got the right way to say it, but nonetheless, I have covered hundreds of VTubers on this channel, including people who are canceled for doing terrible things, and yet, I have never encountered a VTuber more hated within their community than Toastify. Nobody. I have seen people outed as predators, as racists, as all other kinds of terrible things, but nobody was hated by VTubers more than this guy. And really, when you think about it, it's all like Weenie Hut Jr. levels of bad things he did. It was like a death by 1,000 cuts. He really, in the end, canceled himself, because here's what he did. Basically, he got caught directing an artist to trace other VTubers' emotes, including those from people like Shy Lily. And really, in the end, I think that's half on the artist for not having the ethical standard to say no, and they went ahead and traced it at his request. But also, there was the beginning of the end, which really spurred everything, is where he made a post dumping on AI-generated art to only come back 4 days later posting AI-generated art and trying to claim that it was his own art. It was just really dumb stuff. But the main thing, the reason why people hated him so much, had to do with his follow back scam. So basically what he would do on Twitter was follow people. He would follow every VTuber he would ever see. And the second they'd follow him back, he would unfollow them. And the reason he did this was for his Twitter ratio, which basically meant he would have a very large number of people following him, but his personal following list would be low. So he follows like 25,000 people, but only follows 200 himself. It's like a ego thing. It's really embarrassing, honestly, but every time he did that, and I've had content creators do this to me all the time, when you follow someone then unfollow them when they follow you back, it just leaves a really bad taste in their mouth. And basically everyone was waiting for their chance to attack him. So when the AI thing happened, everyone came out of the woodwork to cancel him. And really, it was his responses to these things that got him canceled. If he said nothing or just owned up to it and said, yeah, I was an idiot, sorry, it would have just blown past him, but he doubled down and then he kind of apologized and he tried to like mock the whole cancellation. It was exhausting. And like I said, a really interesting look into how someone can be so hated for really some of the more benign stuff we've ever seen VTubers canceled for. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a B tier. It's just an interesting chapter out of this year. But next, we have a controversy involving Anya from Spy Family. The one we're going to focus on in particular is the blushing controversy. So there was a viral TikTok where this user was claiming that Spy Family was sexualizing Anya because she would blush whenever she was around her father. Which, ironically, that TikTok had to be the most fatherless thing I have ever seen in my life. Yeah, sexualization is when smiling or having a good relationship with your father and being excited to see him. It was a crazy TikTok, and I will go on the record. I am on the record. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think that first TikTok was made with 100% sincerity. And then they went on to make follow-up videos that were clearly trolling, but their account was completely normal before that Anya blushing controversy. Then they became a trolling account. I think they were just trying to cover their bases. And you know what? At the end of the day, it was a really funny controversy. And I'll give it a B tier. It was enjoyable. It was kind of a flashbang controversy. It didn't last too long. So B tier it is. The next one, oh my God. The Shinzo Abe assassination controversy. This ends up on this list. It seems kind of unrelated, but people, of course, they associate anything to do with Japan with anime. So when Shinzo Abe was assassinated, brutally executed in public, in broad daylight, people came out of the woodwork to not only demonize him, acting like he's a literal war criminal or something, but they also lumped anime into this and was like, this is a dark day for all the weeaboo, white supremacists and fascists and all these things. And it was just like the weirdest, like no connection at all. Like a man is brutally assassinated, a leader that was very respected internationally, by the way. And people used it to attack anime fans and Shinzo Abe's legacy as well. And it was super weird. Like you don't need to be some weeaboo who like worships Japan to find all those things very disturbing. And for me, it's just a really bad controversy. Luckily, it blew over quick, but it really shows people's true colors. These are the same people, the people celebrating his death and making all these crazy connections to anime fans and dunking on them. They're the same kind of people who will cry when you misgender their favorite anime character, okay? And yet they're able to celebrate human tragedy. Just goes to show you they're insane. And to me, this is a D-tier controversy. It's nothing amazing. But now we move on to Maureen Kitagawa and just My Dress Up Darling in general. Now, there's really two things I'm going to focus on. The first one's pretty obvious. People were angry about the sexualization of Maureen Kitagawa, a 15-year-old, of course, and really the tone of the show was set by episode 2. Episode 2 of My Dress Up Darling, one of the most memorable anime episodes in the last couple of years because the fan service was just chef's kiss. It was out of this world. Everyone was talking about that episode when it came out. It was wild, okay? And a lot of people were upset about that. And of course, who cares, fictional character. But I think the funny thing to point out is anytime you're dealing with an auntie on Twitter who's trying to grandstand about fictional characters being underage or lollies or whatever, they will always have lewd images of Maureen Kitagawa in their public Twitter likes. I swear to God, it is like crack cocaine to aunties. They can't resist her, okay? And I can't blame them. Like, Maureen Kitagawa is scorching, dude. Everyone loves Maureen Kitagawa. If you think Maureen Kitagawa is unattractive, don't talk to me, okay? But the real controversy I want to talk about was in one of the later episodes, she was cosplaying as a character that had a tan. And some people on Twitter thought this was an act of racism, that this was a form of blackface, and that she was appropriating black culture by having a bit of makeup on. Crazy, right? Absolutely insane. Ignoring the fact that Gyaru culture exists in Japan. That's not That's something they've been doing for decades. It's not appropriating culture. And also, she was cosplaying a character. Also, back up. We're dealing with an anime character cosplaying as another anime character. And you're worried about blackface. It was just a crazy controversy, but out of respect for Marin Kitagawa, you know, she is just prime, possible waifu of the year. We might do a video on that later, but I'm going to give this one a B tier because a lot of it blew over, and, you know, any chance to talk about Marin Kitagawa, I'm in. But now we're moving on to a very controversial one here. This is maybe the most controversial thing on this entire list. This was the Smash or Pass Lolly Edition post made by the VTuber Irina. This happened a few months ago. So she made a tweet promoting a Smash or Pass where she was asking people to post safe for work lolly characters in the replies to her tweet, where she would, of course, use them in a Smash or Pass video. Of course, you know where this goes. Hundreds of VTubers in the quote retweets attacking her, calling her a pedo, calling anyone who supports her a pedo. It was probably the most backlash I've seen any VTuber get on a single post ever. Like, the whole VTuber community was just swarming on her, and it was really crazy. And I think there's a lot of takeaways. Number one, again, nobody knows what a lolly is, because everyone in the quote retweets was children, 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 real life children, blah, 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 blah. They don't know anything about the definition of lolly. But it also showed just kind of like where people stand. It exposed a lot of people as massive hypocrites in the VTuber community, calling out Irina while having the same type of stuff in their likes. Also just, you know, I don't want to go too far here, but like, pay attention to also like the kind of people who talked about this. The kind of people who ignored this whole situation. There was a lot of people who normally cover everything to do with VTuber communities. They comment on anything to do with a controversy involving VTubers, and that they were dead silent on this. Dead silent. And it was ultimately a giant bullying campaign against a small content creator for a safe for work Smash or Pass thing. I mean, some of the VTubers canceling her were doing furry Smash or Pass, but this was too far. It was just bullying. That's all it was. It was hundreds of VTubers bullying Irina for just complete... There was no reason for it. It was just for clout. It was just for attention, and it was eye-opening. It was a very eye-opening experience. And if you want the good ending to this, Irina gained, I think she quadrupled her following, because as much as there was hate, there was a lot of positivity and support as well. So she's still going. She's doing really well, and I'm glad to see that. And yeah, she has nerves of steel for dealing with all that. I couldn't believe the backlash, but for me, it was a very telling event. It was a very big controversy to me, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of even my own peers and where they stand on this stuff. So moving on from that controversy, there is no end to the drama here. We are now in the Bridget controversy, of course. This involves Bridget's gender. So to make a very long and exhausting story short, in the game, Bridget is a twin in their village. It's considered like unlucky to have two twins of the same gender. So her parents essentially force her to be a boy. And I say her because in the end, in the latest installment of the Guilty Gear franchise, they refer to Bridget as a female, and Bridget says that they're a girl. I'm going to have to respect the fact that this character is trans, and the producers or the directors of the game came out and confirmed this about a month after the whole controversy, and I respect their wishes, but I also think it was the product of bad writing, because for 20 years, this character was viewed as a femboy, by all accounts. It was someone who was forced to dress like a girl, but still identified as a male. And then in the arcade mode of the latest game, all of that is undone in 2 lines of dialogue. It was just very strange. I just think it was the product of bad writing. Not bad because the character's now trans, bad because they just did it in such a poor and sloppy fashion. This drama is exhausting. It went on for months. You still see people talking about Bridget all the time. Still debates about her gender. And, you know, you can still hold on to the whole, like, you can still think it's a male character. I don't really care. I don't think it's that deep. I don't think any of this is that deep. It's the gender of an anime character. I get people's frustrations, the people who are surprised by the change of events over time. But, man, stop arguing about it. Like, you gotta move on. Both sides. Move on. Please, for the love of God. I've gotten to that point. I just can't get invested in the Bridget stuff anymore. It's exhausting, and it's just time to let it go. To me, C tier. Just a very unenjoyable, toxic, overdone set of controversies coming out of the whole Bridget situation. So, next up, we have Twitch. So, I'm framing this in the sense that Twitch, a few months ago, everyone was attacking Twitch for different reasons. The main one being that they doubled down on their 50-50 revenue split with their content creators. So in case you don't know, when you sub to someone's channel, it's typically $5 in most countries. Twitch gets half of that. The creator gets the other half. That rate is insane. That is the most greedy rates out there. The next closest one is YouTube with a 70-30 split. That's how far away they are. A lot of platforms are getting at the point of 85-15 or 90-10 splits with content creators. So a lot of people were just really frustrated, and there was this big push to migrate from Twitch to YouTube for streaming. Now, as it turns out, most people didn't. It was kind of like when, I hate using this analogy, but it's too good. Like when Trump won the presidency in 2016, a lot of Americans were saying, if he wins, I'm moving. He wins, and nobody moved. Okay, no one left the country. 99.99% of the people saying that were full of shit. And same thing with Twitch. Everyone said they were going to leave. Very few left. Some people went over to YouTube. They experimented. They realized it's basically the same. And then they went back to Twitch about a week later. It really amounted to not very much, but it did put some pressure on Twitch to step up their game. Have they stepped up their game? I don't think so. I just think YouTube just hasn't made the punches that they need to do to overtake Twitch. But yeah, I think this amounted to pretty much a nothing burger. It was the biggest thing on the internet for a couple of weeks, this controversy, but it didn't really go anywhere because people just couldn't commit to YouTube yet. And I don't really blame them, but yeah, it was an overblown controversy. But this next one is not overblown. It is the Vice documentary. We covered this pretty recently. So Vice came out with a hit piece on the manga industry. It is a long video, very biased, completely irresponsible and unethical. It essentially cherry picks a few people from Japan who claim that the manga industry caters to pedos. And of course, not a single person in the entire video could provide any evidence to support their opinions. It was just how they felt. And probably the most shocking and ridiculous part of the video was a long segment where the interviewer talked to a real-life pedophile, someone who harmed many children, and now was trying to blame his behaviors on manga he consumed later in his life after he already was offending. It was an obvious cop-out, this guy trying to absolve himself of his past guilts. And they promoted this on their YouTube channel. The video has millions of views, and it contains some of the most biased sources and spreads misinformation about US and Japanese law. It is a horrible, horrible video. It was getting dragged everywhere. But there wasn't too much you could do about it because they turned the comments section off on the video, and they even region blocked the video in Japan, meaning the main subject of this video, Japanese citizens, were unable to even watch it without a VPN or other sources to get around it. Terrible controversy. It's kind of like, I hate it so much I want to say it's garbanzo, but it was a big deal. And really, I was proud to see a lot of people talking out about this, even people who are not the biggest defenders of this kind of stuff, calling out Vice for their BS. And, you know, I'm not going to let this go anytime soon. I'm going to keep watching this. I'm going to keep watching the reporters involved with this. And I'm going to make sure they're held as accountable as I can. That's all I'm going to say. So B tier for this one. Now, I almost couldn't believe this, but the Ruchia drama was this year. It has been a long year, ladies and gentlemen, a long drama-filled year. But yes, the Ruchia drama was this year when she was essentially terminated from Hololive back earlier this year. Now, very long story. I'm sure you're all familiar, so I'm not going to get into fine details. But basically, the woman behind the character, Ruchia, had some DMs leaked on one of her live streams. It was attached to a popular Japanese singer-songwriter, and people began to suspect that they were boyfriend-girlfriend, and it caused a lot of outrage because she offers the girlfriend experience, and people thought this was like an act of betrayal, that she was now impure in the eyes of idol culture, and she was getting canceled heavily in Japan. And in her panic, she went to a drama channel. She shared some insights that included information that violated her non-disclosure agreements with Hololive and Cover Corp. And essentially, that was the reason she was fired, was because of those violations, not because of having a boyfriend or potentially having a boyfriend or all these other things. But really, the reaction was pretty split. In Japan, a lot of people supported her getting punished. But in the West, a lot of people were shocked that this was even an issue in the first place. And of course, in the fallout of all this, she is now working as Nazuna with VShojo. But this was the biggest thing in the VTubing sphere for a long time, and it was filled with a lot of twists and turns. It is really kind of just the quintessential VTuber drama involving some of the biggest content creators out there, and its impact is pretty big. And it has to go in the S tier. It really does. And, you know, there's really nothing else to say. It was just a wild ride. It feels like a fever dream at this point, but let's keep it moving. The next one involves femboys and traps. Rev just said the T word and the F word. Yes, I did. Because I don't think those terms are offensive in it of themselves, because femboy and trap are the type of terms that, if applied correctly, don't offend anyone. They offend people when they're used to misgender or mislabel someone. And there's been many different posts on Twitter that we've covered trying to come up with alternatives to those dangerous, icky words. Some of those alternatives include Rose Boy and Fairy Boy, which to me sound like something a high school bully would call an effeminate boy. Okay? Like, it sounds like bullying to me. It feels weird to say those words. It doesn't sound right. And really, it's just, again, people will call me ignorant for defending the use of those words, but I think it's pretty ignorant to demonize a completely innocent word just because some people, some bad actors out there, have used it to misgender, particularly trans people. Like, that's obviously a very bad thing, but that doesn't make the word bad in and of itself. So, you know what? This is going to be the first one of the day. Garbanzo controversy, okay? It's just a really dumb talk, and people in their solutions to all this have come up with way more offensive terms than the ones they're trying to replace. But now we move on to another really interesting one, the VTuber tag drama. This is a long one. Really two main cases. There were two case studies in this. There was Eliza Betty TV, and I think her name was Little Liana. Two essentially cam girls who were abusing the VTuber tag, using it on their Twitch streams to gain more discoverability. And unlike other people like Amaranth or Mizkif, who were also abusing the tag, they doubled down when they were called out for using it. And their doubling down made them look so stupid that everyone hated them. Because they had this attitude, this air of entitlement, like they deserve to use the VTuber tag and that no one has a right to tell them what to do. And the thing that frustrated me the most about this whole situation was each time it happened, Twitch refused to act. They wouldn't do anything about it. In fact, the closest thing we got to a response in this whole situation was a kind of promise by Twitch that they'll look into it by the end of the year, which of course they didn't. even though the fact that misusing tags on Twitch is against their TOS. But they refuse to do anything, and honestly, it was a good moment for the VTuber community, but honestly, it showed that a lot of the big non-VTuber related content creators really have no respect for VTubers. There was people mocking VTubers for wanting to have like a tag to properly represent them, and that was being abused by other content creators. It was just kind of sad for a lot of VTubers having people as big as like XQC mocking the whole situation. It wasn't good, but the controversy itself was pretty big and one that I was very invested in personally. So I'm going to say it's an A tier controversy. Next up, the Bayonetta drama. So when Bayonetta 3 was just about to release, the voice actress for Bayonetta, Helena Taylor, came out in a series of Twitter videos essentially claiming that she was only offered $4,000 to reprise her role as Bayonetta in the third installment of the game. Now, for a lot of people, that was pretty outrageous because the franchise has grossed something like $500 million at this point. So they're like, how can you not give the iconic voice actress behind the whole series a better pay cut? Well, she fooled a lot of people, including me. I have apologized for this. I jumped the gun and was like attacking the developers, saying like they should pay her better. This is ridiculous. But as it turns out, she lied about like everything. She was not offered just $4,000. She was offered $4,000 to $5,000 per session for a minimum of 5 voice acting sessions. So she was at the very least going to get $20,000 to reprise this role, which seems a lot more acceptable and quite frankly pretty generous, especially if you're going beyond 5 sessions. And it was really just a terrible look for her. She is like forgotten about. Her career is over. No one's ever going to want to work with her again. And for Bayonetta 3, I think it worked in their favor. I think it hyped up the game and got people talking about it. And in the end, a lot of people just sided with the team over at Bayonetta, making Bayonetta, because they had to deal with this really bizarre situation. So, having said that, a lot of twists and turns, a lot of people talking about it. I'm going to give it a B tier ranking as well. Next one, you can't really see this too well, but it is an example of AI generated art. We've already talked about this a little bit in the video, but AI generated art has been a big topic of discussion for the entire year or most of the year. And really, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty, but for me personally, I think there's a lot of neat applications that AI generated art can do. It can be a very good tool for people to kind of experiment with different things and kind of learn and hone their craft. I think in the hands of a good artist, this software can be very beneficial to their work. Not to be used to dupe people and make essentially what is fake art, but I think it's a good learning tool if you use it for good reasons. But for most people, this all boils down to the ethical nature of these data sets, which include unsourced artwork that is stolen from artists, as well as even personal information. We covered a story where medical records, people's pictures from medical records were being included in data sets. That is scary. And really it's serving as another form of just stealing people's private information and their content to be sold off to these developers. And it's really AI. I don't know where this is going to be in 5 years, but for now, the controversy was a big one, something everyone has had to weigh in on or at least come across at some point. So for that reason, A tier for AI artwork. Next, we have the Nezuko drama. Better stated, the Nezuko demon form, where she gained some hunkabalunkas, and people on Twitter predictably went absolutely insane. But really, where are you offended at? The demon has boobs now. I know, a literal child. No. She is a demon, a fictional demon. I think you're looking into this a little hard. This was just a really dumb but quick one. There's not a whole lot I have to add on to this. It was just kind of a boring, quick, like, flashbang type of a controversy. So I'm going to give it D tier. This next one is funny. This is two VTubers covered in the same thing. Maury Calliope and Crony from Hololive both got into similar situations this year where they were accused of cucking their fan base. In the case of Maury, that happened when she began to develop a public friendship with CDawg VA, better known as Connor. People were accusing her of cucking their fans by interacting with another male. Yes, terminally online stuff. And then Crony, essentially the same thing when she was talking with other male Holostar members, when she collabed with male members from Hololive. People were saying that literally just her being there and talking with them was cucking her fans. And if she laughed at one of their jokes, that was a signal that something's going on behind the scenes. It was, again, parasocial relationship to the maximum with both of them. It was a really embarrassing situation. And, we think about these types of idol culture elements being exclusive to the Japanese audience. That's not true. There's plenty of people in the West who are also acting in that way and judging Maury and Crony for just interacting with men. It was a really insane drama. It was kind of just dumb, but got a good amount of traction. So I'm going to say C tier for this. Next up, we have the Kobeni drama. This is an ongoing one. Really, it's just, to boil it down the most simple way, it is the hatred of Kobeni on Twitter. One of the most hated characters of 2022. Basically because she's as annoying as she is in the manga. For some reason, all these people have the same criticism, that they really liked her character in the manga, but now, ooh, she's so cringe. Well, she's exactly what she's supposed to be. She just has a voice now. And some people have lumped this in with like mental illness, that she's glorifying mental illness and these things. Like, oh, she's so shaky and nervous and all these things, but she's in life and death situations. She's dealing with actual devils and things like that. Like, her being scared and chipmunkish makes sense. Really dumb drama. I don't get it. I don't get this one at all. And it just keeps continuing. But for me, D tier as well. So next up, we got the Merryweather drama, which was really insane. He was canceled and attacked really hard for a set of his comics. Pretty much all of them boil down to a general theme of a attractive girl falling for a unattractive guy. The main one being a goth girl being attracted to a nerdy guy. And if you looked at any of his posts on Twitter containing those comics, there were easily thousands of quote retweets attacking him, saying not only that it's cringe, but going as far as giving him death threats in cases. But also the main thing being, people claimed it was a self-insert, that Merryweather was inserting himself into this character, this nerdy character. And you know what? Completely unfounded. And the harassment Merryweather received was pretty insane. And eventually, I was really proud to see how he owned this whole situation and of just doubling down and continuing to make these comics and rubbing it in the face of the people who are trying to cancel him and stop him from doing what he wants to do. And he still makes these to these days. It's an ongoing. I enjoy them personally, but in terms of the drama itself, yeah, it was pretty solid. I mean, it wasn't anything absolutely insane. It's just more like harassment. He dealt with an unbelievable amount of harassment over what were really supposed to be cringy comics. They're supposed to be cringe, but people don't get that. It's lost on Twitter users these days. But next, we have a very interesting one. It's not just the FBI here, but earlier this year, we dealt with an account, a VTuber who made a gimmick account dedicated towards protecting the exploitation of children online. Now, noble cause, right? Well, until you find out what they're doing, which the only exploitation they cared about was the exploitation of fictional characters. Yes, the entire account was dedicated towards protecting anime characters. Yes, you heard me right. And they went out citing bad law, of course, the Protect Act of 2003, among other unconstitutional standards. And they went after dozens of VTubers and regular Twitter users trying to report them and call them out on their gimmick account, and even claimed that they were filing FBI reports on people, including ya boy Rev, because I made one video covering it, and then they responded by saying that they were reporting me to the FBI, among other things. Crazy situation, but really just went to show you how delusional people are on Twitter, how terrible their priorities are, that they'll waste resources on a public tip line dedicated to protecting real-life children with their inactionable claims about fictional characters because it makes them feel important on Twitter.com. I'm going to give this one C tier as well. And I made a beautiful little staircase here, and now I'm going to ruin it with this last one, which shows an aged-up Anya. Now, there was multiple controversies involving aged-up characters, and Anya was the biggest one, where people would ask artists over and over again, why are you drawing sexualized lolly characters or underage characters? Why don't you just draw adults? Well, some artists said, okay, well, I'll age up Anya. Anya's now an adult. And then the antis go, well, not like that. You sick freak. They used to be a child. Yeah. Imagine applying that standard to real life. Like, two 20-year-olds are dating, and what? They're both sickos because they used to be kids at some point? Like, the whole concept of aging up a character is no different than gender bending a character or something like that. It is some of the most forced outrage I've ever seen. The Anya one in particular was really funny because we had several artists who were just mocking the situation. They knew they were going to get blowback, and they made the post anyways. And it was really funny to watch, but yeah, aged up characters, no bueno to Twitter users. They do not like that. They don't care. You know, age is just a number to them. They don't care if that character is an adult. They think it's a child, therefore it is a child. And this one, to me, B tier controversy. But as you can see, that'll do it for this tier list. This was a hell of a ride. Please let me know your thoughts about the rankings in the comments section down below. Here's to a completely wild and drama-filled 2022. It was a crazy year, but looking back, we had some wild controversies, and hey, who knows what 2023 has in store. But thanks for watching the video. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.